Hey VC, Crazy Jimmy here with another Acid Archive Diary entry. This will be number 10 in my series. And today I'm going to be featuring a really crazy story in a great album, in my opinion, even though it wasn't revered in the book, in the Acid Archive book, which is unfortunate. But you can't please everyone. And certain reviewers like certain styles of music, and this particular album has the style that I prefer, and this is the album here. This is actually credited to Chris Ducey, as you can see there, but there's a crazy story behind this which I'll get into. But it's called Songs of Protest and Anti-Protest, and it's on the Surrey label right there. So just a little bit on the sound quality and what to get for this. First off, the snippet I played at the start of the video is Girl from Vernon Mountain, or MT, and it's one of the dreamier songs on the album, but there's actually several tracks similar that are really dreamy and have that Sunday vibe with vibes. I love vibes in my psych music, and there's no exception here. I mean, there's vibes all over the place on this album, but just a little bit too on the sound quality. You've got to make sure, here's the label, you got to make sure when you do pick this up, and believe me, you need to pick this up if you don't own it, you need to get the mono. You cannot settle for a stereo. Do not settle for a stereo. The reason for that is there isn't a dedicated stereo mix. This was mixed in mono only, and the stereo is one of those fake stereos where they separate, like you got the vocals all the way to the left, panned all the way to the left, and then you got the guitar panned all the way to the right. There's like nothing in the center that I remember when I had the stereo. I actually sold it off, got rid of it, but it was just that bad. I remember the vocals were like all the way over on one side, and then most of the other instruments were on the right side. It was horrible. So when I picked up one of these monos and heard the difference, like, whoa, it's like night and day. The mono has far more bottom end, far more punch. Really, it's got a dreamier fill. The sound stage is dreamier. Everything about the mono blows away the stereo, so don't even waste your time with the stereo on this. Get the mono. They're a little harder to find. They might be a little more expensive, but 100% worth your trouble finding the mono on this. So a little bit about this here. I'm going to read from the book, actually, because the book sums it up pretty well. Now, this particular reviewer didn't love this album, so, poo-poo to this reviewer, but everyone has their opinions. The reviewer is PL, so he's reviewed quite a bit in here. So I'll read from the top. It's kind of a short review, but it does go into the story pretty well and what happened with this album, and then some of the offshoot albums that arose from the artist. So, okay, Chris Ducey. I seem to be alone in thinking this is an unexceptional pop and easy listening LP with folk moves. But apart from a couple of memorable tracks, typically the dreamier ballads, I don't find much interest in it, and some of it strikes me as outright poor. In any event, whatever quality it has is overshadowed by the remarkable background story. LA artist Chris Ducey, with a D as in dog, of Chris and Craig with Craig Smith, a.k.a. Maitreya Kali, which I'll get into in a second, had recorded an album's worth for Surrey label. Ducey, being under contract elsewhere, wasn't allowed to release it, leaving Surrey, the label, with an album's worth of artwork, titles and artwork related to the material. In an unprecedented move, it was then decided that the new LP should be re-recorded using the exact same song titles as Ducey's, although the new tunes were completely different. This challenging task fell upon Bobby Jameson, who delivered what is now known as the Chris Ducey LP. The last name and sleeve artwork changed from Ducey to Lucey for the same contractual reasons I outlined earlier. 2 label variants exist, a red and a purple. I showed you the purple, which is also the mono. Have been documented, and interestingly, a Canadian pressing exists with the Ducey name intact on the sleeve, but still with Jameson's music. In England, a more accurate release credited to Bobby Jameson and retitled One Too Many Mornings on Joy Records. Chris Ducey's original recordings remain unheard to this day. And this album was released in, I think it was 1969. I'm sorry, 66. 1966. So, really, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, for the time, the year this was released, and this was actually recorded in 65, and then released in 66. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's of its time. It sounds like it's of 1968. So, I mean, this is definitely a few years before its time. You know, it's so dreamy. It's so beautiful. It kind of reminds me of Gandalf, which you see right up there. This album, the vibe I get from it is very Gandalf. So if you like that Gandalf album, you will love this album. Absolutely love it. So check out the snips on it besides what I played. Also, I want to show you some of the offshoots here that were mentioned. So the first one that was mentioned features Chris Ducey's mate Craig Smith, and this is a repress double album. I have yet to find the original of this. It's pretty expensive. I think it's like a $2,000 album. So if I find it at a good price, I'll grab it, but it's impossible to find. But this is a double album featuring Craig Smith. One side you've got Satya Say, and the other side you got Inca. So this is Inca and Satya Say. And then you've got a hype sticker here. So after suffering an LSD-induced mental breakdown, Los Angeles-based songwriter Craig Smith renamed himself as Matra Kali. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And custom-pressed Apache Inca, a double LP documenting his material, personal and spiritual journey. His message to the world encoded on the album jacket in rambling, quasi-mystical, messianic verse was urgent, desperate, delusional, and disturbing, recorded between 1967 and 71. The music tells a different story, achingly beautiful, haunting, acoustic folk songs, luminescent, psychedelic folk rock, eerie, off-kilter acid rock fragments, field recordings, all meticulously woven into a magical, mesmerizing whole. So just an incredible, an accurate description, that's for sure. This album's great too, so seek that out along with the Chris Ducey. And then lastly, this Penny Arcade album, which features Craig Smith and the real Chris Ducey. So there's Chris Ducey there, the fellow that recorded this album here, but then, they didn't use the recordings. They used Bobby Jameson's. And, of course, that's Brian Jones on the front, which blows my mind. They have an image of Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones on the front of this album. So it's just a crazy story. But this Penny Arcade, Arkade, album is phenomenal as well. Craig Smith is on this, a.k.a. this guy. And the real Chris Ducey's on here. So you got Chris Ducey and Craig Smith right there. And then it also features Don Gutt and Bobby Donahoe. This was produced by none other than Michael Nesmith, the Monkees. And this is the Sundays pressing. This was never released. This never got a formal release. This was a Black Friday release several years ago on Sundays. I think they pressed 1,000 of these. But again, if you like what you heard with Chris Ducey, if you like Gandalf, if you like what you hear with Craig Smith here, that psych folk, you're going to love Penny Arcade. Very similar psych folk, psych pop, baroque pop right here. So I actually have one of these for sale too. So if anyone's interested, reach out and I'll cut you a little deal. But there you have it. So just to reiterate, please make sure if you do seek this out and you like what you hear, which I'm sure you will, make sure you get the mono pressing of this. And then if you like that, definitely want to seek out the Penny Arcade RSD, only pressing of it, my understanding. And then this one as well, which is a double album. So that is it from me today. I appreciate everyone watching. Please hit subscribe if you like what you're hearing and the content. Like I said, I'm going to have far more content coming out, and I'm going to have a variety of content. I've got more Guided by Voices content coming. I've got some post-punk content coming, some 90s indie post-punk, late 80s, 90s. I got some more power pop content coming from the 70s. I have more indie rock from the 90s coming. I did a nice segment on Elephant Six Collective, which featured tons of bands from the 90s, tons of vinyl from the 90s. So just stay tuned for all that. Of course, more Acid Archive Diaries will be coming. Number 11 will be next, and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate everyone. Crazy Jimmy out.